Morning guys, today I'm going to talk about green water in the pond. So anyone who has a pond at home, any farm at all, will at some point in their lives encounter green water. Usually it happens when you've got a barbecue coming up and you've got loads of guests coming round and you want the pond to look its best. You wake up in the morning, open the curtains and it's green. So in this video I'm going to talk about why your water goes green, what's the cause of that. I'm going to talk about ways you can get rid of it in the short term very quickly. So in the case of the barbecue, you can get rid of it literally overnight, but it is a short-term fix. And then a couple of methods for longer term prevention and removal of green water. So we'll crack on. First up, I'd like to just make a distinction between green water and blanket weed or string algae. So very different methods for removing and treating. Green water is when the water itself takes on a green colour. So if you get a glass, scoop some pond water, hold it up against a white background, you'll see a green tinge to the water. Whereas blanket weeds, string algae, etc. Grow on the pond bottoms and the sides of the pond, like literally a weed, a plant growing on the sides. So yeah, make that distinction. Today we're talking about green water. And green water is caused by a single-celled organism, so extremely tiny living organism just made up of one single cell. And these guys, they live in the pond, and the food source, the nutrient that they need is nitrate or phosphate, which is readily available in your pond if you don't control it with adequate filtration. And the filtration that removes nitrates are kind of a little bit few and far between. Plants in the pond will do the job for you. They will remove nitrates, but particularly in the case of koi ponds, most koi ponds tend to not have plants in and not want plants in. It's more of a sterile, clean environment. So plants are not always an option, although you can create sort of a bog filter whereby you have plants in the water but separate from the pond, and the water's pumped through them and returns back. Shower filters are also very good at removing nitrate. It's a particular type of bacteria you need to colonise to remove nitrate with filtration. It's anaerobic, which means it needs an environment completely void of oxygen to survive, and it then, rather than taking oxygen from the water because there is none, or from the environment because there is none, it takes it from the nitrate itself, thus breaking it down and removing it. So there's options with filtration, but they are more difficult, more expensive. Today we're going to look at options other than filtration for removing the green water. So firstly, chemicals. There's several chemical treatments available that you can add to your pond that will clear the green water up very quickly. One such product that I've used is this one. It's a Tetra product called Algorem. You add this to your pond water in the correct dose, and as it says, 24-hour emergency remedy against green water. I've used this when my pond was thick green, and literally the next day it's been clear. So it does work very quickly as well. Again, as I say, for that kind of emergency where you need to clear it quickly. The problem with that is you're not addressing the problem long term. The nutrients are still there. It will come back. The second option I'm going to look at today is barley straw. So this is quite an old-fashioned thing, but it does actually work. So basically what you do, if you get some proper barley straw, tie it together in a bale and place it somewhere in your filter or your pond itself. What happens over time, the barley straw is decomposed, it breaks down, and the compounds that are given off during that decomposition of the barley straw actually get rid of the green water. They actually deal with the single-celled organisms that cause green water. So this is a more long term, you can stretch this out to several months and then you need to replace the straw. But it does work. It takes a bit of time, but within a week or two of going in, it starts to decompose. And then, as I say, you can get a few months out of that. And it does work. So a good option and not expensive. And the third option, and probably the main one that most, certainly koi pond owners, tend to adopt, is with some form of UV light. So as part of your filter system, you'll incorporate a UV light source that shines UV into the water as it's pumped through. And what happens is those single-celled organisms and if you can imagine, a single cell is very, very small. You need billions of them to be suspended in your water for you to see that as a green colour. And what happens is, as they pass through the UV light, a process called flocculation occurs, which essentially the organisms all clump together, and it passes through your system, and it can be many, many times, and each pass through, more of this flocculation, more of the clumping is occurring, so the size of that lump of cells is getting bigger and bigger with each pass, until it gets to a point where it's big enough that your mechanical filtration can remove it. So it's removed just like any other mechanical debris would be by your mechanical filter, and that's working all the time that it's on. So initially it can take a week, 10 days to get the water from being very green to being completely clear, but then because you're reducing the number of single cells all the time, so the multiplication of those, which is very rapid, is reduced exponentially. So you come to a point where there isn't enough to be visible in the water, and then the UV light will keep it at that level. So this is a long-term, a permanent really solution to it. Now, in terms of the UV system itself, there's two very distinct types available for pond owners. So the first one is a UVclarifier, which is the most common type used on koi pond systems. Now, a UVclarifier has a light source in the UVA wavelength. So UVA is known as soft UV, and this is the light that the ozone layer doesn't filter out. So this falls on the earth. This is available in all around us, and this doesn't kill anything. So this purely causes the flocculation that I described earlier. And UVclarifier, as I say, operating in the UVA wavelength, unfortunately is often abbreviated to UVC, the C being clarifier, but also manufacturers like to, whether it's intentional or not, like to refer to their systems as being UVC, implying it operates in the UVC wavelength, but it actually doesn't, it's UVA. And the reason I make a point of this is the next type of UV system is the UV sterilizer, and as the name suggests, this system has some sterilizing properties. So it can actually kill some harmful bacteria, and the reason for that is that it operates in the UVC wavelength of the light spectrum. And so you can see there's a conflict with UVC, actual UVC light, and the term UVC when used to refer to a clarifier which operates in the UVA wavelength. And UVC is referred to as hard UV, and fortunately for us it's absorbed by the ozone layer. So the ozone layer effectively filters it out, and that's why there's a big deal about the hole in the ozone layer, because if that ozone layer becomes damaged and starts to allow UVC through and UVC to reach Earth, then, as I say, it is harmful to us and to living organisms. Now, UV sterilizers tend to be a lot more expensive than UV clarifiers, probably 3 or 4 times the price. But yeah, do watch out and do make sure you're buying the right thing, particularly if you're spending a lot of money on a sterilizer. Make sure it is a sterilizer and it is working in the UVC wavelength. And as I say, UVC does have some sterilizing effects, so it can kill bacteria. The big thing with that though is the bacteria in the pond that you'd like it to kill, the bad bacteria, they're not free swimming, they're not in the water, so they don't tend to pass through the sterilizer. They tend to be on surfaces, pond bottoms, inside pipework, etc. So not very many of them actually make it into the sterilizer to be killed off, so limited benefit, but certainly it is the better option, but it's very difficult to say just how much benefit you'll actually get from a sterilizer as opposed to a standard clarifier. Now, in terms of the light source itself, there's a bulb inside the units, and that bulb, from the minute you switch it on, effectively the strength of that UV light is deteriorating, and you get around about a year out of a bulb and it's finished. So what I'd suggest is change the bulb every year annually, and I would change it around about March time, April time, depending when you start to see spring in your particular country. Actually, obviously certain countries that'll be different, but just coming into spring, change the bulb so the light source is at its strongest when you need it the most. That period when the daylight, the photo period is lengthening, the sun is getting stronger, that's when you're more prone to green water. So that's when you want your bulb to be at its best. So hopefully that was of some use to you. I've tried to keep it brief, so if there's anything else I've missed or anything else you'd like to know, please do put it down in the comments. I answer all comments. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Lots of stuff on there now, do check it out. If you like the video, hit the like button, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Take care.